sets this up pretty well, though. I like the fact that Johnny's being a little bit adversarial here because there's a lot of unknowns about this team, and London has had matches in which they've managed to demonstrate improvement, especially with Sparker coming on the roster, Matt. Now, is that enough to take down a team like Toronto, who, in fairness, are still chasing that 500 record?
Yeah.
That remains to be seen.
I think we've seen good things from London. I know when me and you've casted them, when we've seen Sparker in. I know Molfig has had some good games that we've casted as of recently. So like, I think they're obviously a winless team, but we've seen good moments from them. Just not good enough, right? Where I think that's like ultimately where you're judged at. Can you get wins in the league? And you could be pretty good, but if you're not getting wins, it doesn't really account for much. Where I think London, if you were to get a win, if you were to get a win here, well, what? I mean, we gotta be honest, right? Like, what are you playing for? A 40% team fight win rate? Like, these players want to do better than that. These players are better than that. They just have not been able to put it together against some of these top teams as of yet.
London again, looking for that first win, Matthew, and the inclusion here of Shax should probably perk a couple of people up here because when we talked about a meta that involved Tracer or maybe Sombra, Shax probably the guy. Think back. Now, cast your mind back to Season 2, Los Angeles Valiant, the Custer edition. They got a huge victory against the then-dominant Vancouver Titans, and a huge part of that was because of Shax's performance on the Sombra. Expect that to be a bright spot here. No Sparker in the starting lineup, but he may get subbed in a little bit later on. Let's have a look across the aisle here at their opponents today, the Toronto Defiant, who have been under a veil of uncertainty, secrecy. They've been on a break, whichever way you like to put it. Michelle, though, boasts the second final blow to death ratio in the league, the second highest, rather. So quietly on that diva, he's been churning along quite nicely. And listen, if Sato can get enough of an unspecified carbonated beverage into his veins before this match, that wrecking ball that we've questioned in the past may have some punch.
Yeah, it's I think the thing with Toronto is they're such like a volatile team, right? Like they have these really good performances and you're really high on them, and then the next game they just kind of fall flat, where there's not really a kind of consistent baseline of play, game in and game out, where I think that's where, if you're reinforced, you can kind of see a pathway to victory for London here, right?
Sure.
London performs like they did, against some of the other teams that they've taken to Game 5, close scenarios. Toronto doesn't have a grasp, really, of the meta, not playing it at a high level, and London's able to steal one. Because you look at the roster, obviously for Toronto, we know the talent that they have. Shax is a good player, right? Blase, Kellex, we've seen in the Overwatch League before. Hottie's had a tough time on the ball, but Molfig's looked good in the off-tank role. They have players who can play at that level. They just need to put it together.
Here we go into our crucial series here, in our starting series, of course, for this weekend of Overwatch League play. The Toronto Defiant take on the London Spitfire. First map looks to be Ilios here. And a lot of questions need to be answered. Both of these teams have had the benefit, the privilege even, of sitting and watching week 1 of the Countdown Cup play. Seeing teams like, the Justice capitulate to a lack of understanding or mastery of the current meta. Plenty of time to take notes, to shore up some of those deficiencies and come in with really good looks as far as the hero pools right now have dictated. We're going to be starting on Ruins here. We expect these teams to have at least some different looks here across this series.
Ready?
Yeah, absolutely. I think what you could see from both teams is probably the Wrecking Ball, right? Seems to be the go-to tank. I think you could definitely see Toronto coming out with that Sombra Tracer combination. Hisu with a huge part of the Philadelphia Fusion last year, right? Playing the Sombra. You can definitely come in here and play it for Toronto.
Hisu definitely, look, to me, by the Philly coaching staff, hyped up to be the next sort of prodigial DPS player. He hasn't quite panned out that way just yet, but it's still early days in the grand scheme of things, and he'll be on the Sombra here. It'll be Tracer Sombra with the Wrecking Ball for the Defiant, but the London Spitfire have locked the legs here, Matthew.
Yeah, which is interesting, right? If you're going to play the Wrecking Ball and, kind of like a little bit of a lower healing output, maybe try and get aggressive, so Hisu almost goes off the side. I think what I kind of suspect when you have the 76 in the mix is they expect the aggression to come through from Toronto, and they just want to play a little bit further, maybe give some more help to Rippa in the backline.
Nicely done there from Hardy. He helps set up that pick off onto Lastro. Comes across the map from Blaze's Helix rockets. And that one pick is what really gives the Spitfire all the motivation that they need. Also means that Hardy can move around with more impunity. And they're up at 14% already to start things off.
Oh, I mean, Lasher almost gets taken out from across the map there as well. He's so low. They're going to have to get him healed up and now be able to push in. But if they're not able to capitalize on these hacks that Hisu is getting off, they're going to be in lots of trouble. As the Discords are coming down on Asado, they're doing a nice job of putting down the damage. And right here, I mean, you cannot let your Zen be in a 1v1 against Lastro.
Characteristically, your Lastro on this team is the aggressor. He's a very forward position support player. I say DPS because he looks like one. He loves to get involved in this damage. With the London Spitfire punishing him a little bit, that time it was Shax just going straight after him here. And I think Ansun J was trying to protect Lastro to a great degree, and he just couldn't keep him alive. Not a great start from the Defiant here. Keeping the Zen alive is absolutely pivotal in this kind of metagame.
I mean, it's a terrible start for Toronto. They're going to have to get a big EMP here and follow up on it, or else London may just kind of run away with this first round.
Nice. Hasn't been able to do anything to Ripper so far, who's built up a Transcendence just because he's been in the fight for longer. Speaking of which, he pops it right now and the EMP comes out. The timing works for Ripper. He gets the Transcendence to avoid dying to a Tracer, but he ends up getting the value from the EMP use there from Hisu as well. Can't ask for much more as the Zenyatta. You weren't even trying to counter EMP necessarily, but you do it anyway. Reaper eventually goes down though to start. It was 83% and counting, but Blaze's got a pretty comfortable spot here. The problem is that some of the more durable elements of his teammates aren't faring nearly as well, and it's going to be Molfig to stall out the point a little bit longer. That'll be enough for now for the Spitfire.
Yeah, maybe if Hadi lived, you would have ended up using the rally and coming back in that fight. But what's quite interesting is, like you mentioned, Ripper uses the Transcendence because he's actually just getting pressured by Nice. He doesn't really use it. He doesn't even use it to counter the EMP. He pops it, and then Hisu ends up EMPing just a second later.
It's perfect timing.
Yeah, it's unreal timing there where it wasn't the intent.
Self-destruct here forces Shax out of line of sight for the time being. Shell will get back in the mech, and the Pulse Bomb is eaten! Great recovery, Michelle. He's third in the league for ultimates negated on Diva, Matt. Another one. Another notch in the belt for him. Kellex getting run into now. Needs to be careful. Michelle trying to chase the Brigitte. Lastro with the Transcendence here, and Kellex had popped Rally. He stayed alive for the time being, and the Defiant still have the numbers. And they're still sitting pretty on the point.
Yeah, London's waiting for Ripper to come back. Then they'll start the march towards the point. All they're working with here, though, is a self-destruct. Not really much of anything to make this push easy here for the London Spitfire, as Hadi's going to try and get behind and come through with a pile driver.
Nice, needs another bomb! It's shut down by Molfig this time. Both Divas eating their fair share this round. Molfig now needs to decide where to go from here. Hisu's been picked off. He had an EMP. This could be devastating for the Defiant. They've lost Lastro as well, and Ansu J had nowhere to go. This is not the way the round was supposed to end for Toronto. But now, one by one, they'll be picked apart as the London Spitfire look to quickly cap and try to end the round. This EMP, Matt, has to be huge from Hisu.
It may not even matter. Yeah, I mean, they're not going to be able to touch the point. Shax wins a 1v1 against Nace, and then Sato, he gets hit by Kellex with a shield bash and not able to get to the point. I gotta say, that is a terrible look for Toronto for how this series potentially could play out. Because you would assume that is one of their stronger looks compositionally, right? We talked about how Nice has played on the Tracer, Hisu in the past on Sombra. That should be one of their better comps, and they just look so flat on it. They were not able to execute at all.
Here's how it goes down. This is Hisu's situation. I mean, mustn't have had a translocator to go back to. He sticks around for a long time.
It could have been destroyed. So Toronto now, they'll put Lastro on the Ana. So they're going to drop the Zen and go with an Ana, and then they're also going to drop the ball and go Winston. That is a really early time to make those changes. We also have seen teams make these changes and just not work out with the Winston comp.
Well, you have less to deal with against the Ana, for example. You don't have great pressure on the enemy ball as well. There's no Discord orb in play. We've kind of discussed this composition in the past, but that may not be too relevant here, as Nice is able to get a couple of kills early on. Make that 3, in fact. 4, perhaps?
So the thing you could play for here, if you're Toronto, as looks like Hadi will get taken out as he's kind of rolling behind, is playing the Winston and the Ana. Maybe not as strong as like a dive, right? Not playing the Wrecking Ball and the Zen. But maybe you feel like London's dive just really isn't that impactful, or you're not really that worried about it. Where, if Ansun can protect Lastro from, Shax on the Tracer, you feel good about Sato on the Winston being able to cause real problems to the backline of London.
I mean, it's a good look for Lastro, whichever way you slice it, Matthew. His Ana is just dominant. Calyx and Ripper going down, so the Toronto are able to find that backline pretty comfortably for the Spitfire. And that'll be an issue for Lastro. Every now and then the Tracer, unless he hits a kind of nutty sleep dart, he will be under a lot of pressure from dive. But if he can handle it and keep Sato juiced up with that 5G and get him in there, of course, with the nano boost, then they'll be looking fine.
Well, they've just been hacking Hadi constantly when he's just trying to, like, roll through them or roll behind. And then they just chase him, take him out. Just not really being that impactful here on the Wrecking Ball as the next fight kicks off. He's going to go right on in, but it's going to be a rally here for Toronto.
Oh, nice. Got hacked there. Wasn't aware what was on his left side. That's was able to take down Reaper, though. He charged up a volley of orbs. And that means that the Defiant still have a decent position now. Sato, they're collapsing here on a Calyx, and there was nowhere he could have gone. Now the Spitfire have had all their tools for retake taken out from under them.
It's just completely flipped, right? Where it looked really good for London. Toronto did not look good. A little bit of a switch for Toronto. Change from London as well, and things have completely flipped on its head. That's a nano boost onto Sato, and that's going to have them end up using their Transcendence.
Okay, Blase there, manual hack into EMP to make sure he didn't get shield bashed by Ansun J. It's a trade. Tracer goes down here on the side of the Defiant, and the Spitfire have to make it work with 5 somehow. Molfix forced back, though. Defensive Biotic Grenade is going to keep the Defiant nice and topped up, but that's a stick Lastro would soon forget about. Spitfire still have an opportunity to get back into this round, but it has to happen here. Good start from Shax. They've lost Hardy yet again, though the Wrecking Ball for the Spitfire has had a limited impact this round, despite there being no Zenyatta on the other side of the field. Looks like the Defiant are getting run out of town.
It's still Toronto gets up to 99. They end up losing it here, but they'll come back. They'll end up having their own rally, Primal Rage. Hisu should be able to build up this EMP quite quickly. And you'd think be able to close it out in their favor with that combination, where we'll see how London plays this with control of the point. Hadi has to be really careful, like we mentioned, really getting caught out by some of these hacks.
Here's that rally from the Spitfire early. Calyx manually hacked and Hardy slept. A lot of crowd control being leveraged now at the Spitfire, and they lose Ripper as a result. No one was there to protect him. Rally's still in play, but the Defiant don't seem to care at all, and Sato again is looking for Calyx, but behind him, of course, was Molfig, constantly harrying him with the micro-rockets. Somehow Hardy, can he get away? Just about escaped. But the Spitfire have to give up the point, and they had to be back real quick. Oh, Ansun J!
Oh, the EMP is good though, Mitch. It's going to connect with 3, and you have the nano on the Sato. So this is looking good for Toronto to finish it off.
Yep, even losing the Brig early on in the fight here. Everything else works well. Hisu turns up on that Sombra and hits a clutch EMP. And the Toronto Defiant, they're able to at least rewrite to some degree an awful starting round there. That EMP gets nothing from Blase, sadly. And it'll be even up here.
I don't know. This look from London was not very good. I mean, you had at one point, right, when you mentioned that Hadi got slept, you actually had Shax and Blase in a really good position on the supports for Toronto. They actually forced out a rally, but without the ball and the damage to, block in that area, they were not able to finish off anybody, which really kind of resulted in that loss in that previous fight. I think London looked much better when they had the 76 in the mix, and they were just playing, a little bit slower, not, letting Shax and Hadi kind of play together, navigate things, but then also having the protection for Ripper.
Toronto switching. Obviously, their support's up a lot here. They stay with the Ana, and they're going to be playing Farah Mercy. This was highlighted. I think Johnny expected to see this more so from the Spitfire, if I'm not mistaken, but it's Sombra Farah here for the Defiant.
Yeah, it's interesting because you saw them play the 76 or come out on it early, and you would think they would go back to it, but you decide to go with the Farah anyway. Nice just has to put down enough damage, right, to be scary. You see Sato just trying to take that position. You know the supports are stuck in there. But that's going to be a kill from Blase on a Hisu early. That's a big one. No hack now. Hadi doesn't have to worry.
I think he just bangerang the Helix Rocket direct hit on a Hisu there. He was brought back into the fight though, and the Spitfire's positioning, I mean, for whatever reason, they're not in a spot to really contest, despite obviously trading kills early.
Blaze's going to swap here. Are we going to see this? Yeah, they're going to go Sombra again, so
okay.
They're going to try and just dive on through this, just play aggressive. Looks like we're going to see a chain from Rippa as well. Anna, interesting. Okay, so this is what Toronto played last round. London is outside of the ball, right?
I mean, you feel so unsafe against Farah, I think, as Zen, especially in these closer quarters. Something with a little bit of self-heal doesn't hurt, plus the sleep dart potential. Safer on the Ana against the Farah, though, Reaper. Nice, dunks him.
Yeah, you kind of come out that side room. You don't have any help. The Diva's not in position with Matrix. It's kind of difficult to just walk on out there, as you still have players from London who are fighting this. They take out Sato, but I don't know if there's enough here to keep Hottie alive in a fight. They're gonna have to play this quite well, where it seems like Hottie's able to get out towards the spawn.
Michelle's in a wet noodle fight. No one actually has the damage to remove the Diva. He's just like, okay, I'm going to stand in the doorway for a little bit. Antuj did get hacked, but he landed on the high ground, so that keeps him out of harm's reach and keeps Nice topped up. He has a barrage to come back into the fight with, but there's a minefield to contend with. Michelle? Well, he's the Minesweeper. They're all gone. And Nice is slept, so that switch for Reaper does at least give him something, but no one's there to follow it up. The nano boost on the Farah means he's far too durable to really be bothered by being slept. Pulse doesn't connect to Nice, is going to deal with Shax. That is the barrage after the fact, which doesn't do a whole lot, but it's still 82% and counting. Matt, the Defiant are looking supreme right now.
Yes, London has extended this fight for so long.
And for what?
But it was never really that winnable. You were so low on terms of healing. Well, now you come in, you're not even going to end up getting this EMP. Sato can just use mines to split off the point. Sato just drops the mines on the point, forces Blase to run away straight away.
Yeah, it's looking more like Omaha Beach right now for the Spitfire trying to get to the point. They at least get a nano boost on towards Hardy, but he's running out of teammates. Again, Nice this slap, so style points awarded to Reaper for sure. But we'll be getting a dub here at this rate. That's your overtime done, and Hardy is a little too late to get back to the point. It's a map one wrapped up by the Defiants.
And there in the last round, London just kept giving up their supports. I mean, Rippa and Killex not really getting any help, as they were just able to come on the Rippa every single time. With the Farah from up above and the Wrecking Ball. I think if you're London, maybe you revisit going back to that Soldier 76 comp that you ran. Maybe you even think about bringing in Sparker to do it.
Yeah, it feels like when the pace started to increase, things started to slip out of the London Spitfire's hands. They have the chance to slow things down on the other side of these messages, though, ladies and gentlemen. There's plenty of maps to play. So stick around and see if the Spitfire, there's got a bit more fight there in them.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by Cheez-It Grooves. So much flavor, it's a mind crunch. And by TeamSpeak, the official voice supplier of the Overwatch League.
as you can see here on our power rankings for D.Va entering this week, Michelle sits pretty happily there at number 7. Again, his score indicates that he's slightly above league average, but this is a D.Va player that is less aggressive. So if you want a complete opposite to, let's say Space, for example, right, who was really good at just diving backlines last week primarily, Michelle is tied for the second fewest deaths in the league, tied for the second highest final blow to death ratio, and is tied for third in ultimates negated per 10. So this is a player that really is a role player, right, as Flex Tank. Very supportive, very peel-oriented, Matt. Aspire comes in, so, I mean, again, Michelle's definitely going to have his work cut out for him, keeping the backline and, of course, his DPS standing on 2 feet.
Yeah, and happy to see Aspire come in. Happy to see him stay with the Toronto Defiant throughout the season. I feel like he's
locked in.
He's been a great addition here for Toronto. We don't see Sparker come in for London, so the desk ran that beautiful graphic that showed how much better they were with him, right? They win 7% more of their team fights with him. We didn't see him in map 1. We didn't see him
looking at
in
different
map
stats.
number 2. Maybe. But this tells me that maybe they wanna continue to play the Sombra Tracer or Tracer with the 76. Although we've seen Sparker play like McCree, like I imagine he'd be able to play the Soldier, right? Or play the Sombra position. Yeah, I mean, I feel like there is a way to work him into the lineup. Just doesn't seem, at least yet today, that it'll happen.
Yeah, not the option yet. On the other side, right, you mentioned Soldier 76. That's an option for Aspire indeed, as someone who made his name in the league on his debut, no less, on a long-range hit-scan pick. So we'll see if it's going to be a Soldier 76 or something different. We've seen McCree, we've seen Widowmaker on this map. We saw the McCree play with the Sigma a little bit more. Obviously, in a previous meta, that was only got that showed that. So not necessarily going to see that here, but Soldier and Sombra means that, Matt, much like we discussed on Ilios, on Ruins, it's a slower play style that London actually used, and it looked pretty good.
Well, for Toronto, right? You have a lot of personal survivability with the 76 and the Sombra.
Yeah, they're nerfing their healing.
Yeah, if they try and dive you, like the Orisa is very sturdy, right, with Fortify, and then also very difficult to kind of take out any team with a Brig in the mix. And you just have sick damage with the constant Orisa 76 damage with Discord. So I actually like this move from Toronto with how London's dive looked. I would challenge them to try and make it work. Didn't look very good in map number 1.
There you go, Avril, pay attention. That's a ball rollout for you. Hardy just tries to clear the high ground, maybe a pile driver there, and
man,
the Defiant.
catching strays, bro.
No one's safe.
My boy Avril.
No one. Yeah, I do. He's one of my favorites to go at. All right, so the Defiant knocked off the high ground there. They give that up to the Spitfire. The ball helps unseat the Defiant, but they're comfortable still playing around in Sarisa. They are suffering a bit of backline pressure there as Lustro was run onto and discorded by Ripper. So now what do you do from here if you're London?
Well, I mean, they need to take out a player in the backline because they can't just play the cart and move the cart because you're just not gonna win that like brawl battle against this comp, and yeah, you lose Hottie, which I mean, that's been a kind of a consistent result here, right? You really haven't been able to make this Tracer Sombra work, and they've been able to deal with your Wrecking Ball quite easily.
Need healing over here.
PC goes for a foray there. He got caught up a little bit in the churning mass of Spitfire players, but he's just safely farming that EMP. If he gets a kill on Rip, I was going to say, that would have been outrageous, but he has an EMP ready to go. Sato is down. Hisu debating. Yes, the Hiss is lease. Looks like no follow-up, though, on Reaper, even though he lost all of his shield. Shax has gone down, though, so we have a 5v5, and here's the follow-up later in the fight. Again, it's a slow fight that looks good for the Defiant.
Yeah, I mean, they don't deal with the Reaper right as soon as the EMP comes in, but you had like 3 players who are very deep because they're trying to finish off some of the weak members of Toronto that they're able to deal with once the EMP comes through, and Toronto doesn't even need a rally or Transcendence to get that done. As Sato now comes back on the ball. This will give them a little bit more aggression here to be able to roll through that choke and put pressure on the supports of London.
Annoyingly, that pack being hacked is really annoying for Shax. And then there's 2 of them, in fact. There's one even further over there. You see the Wrecking Ball rolling past the hacked health pack. So the Tracer's effectiveness gets limited because you can't make use of these health packs. You can't stay out and fight as often. Tactical visor here from Aspire. Everybody from the Spitfire just gets the heck out of dodge. And Aspire's in a very comfortable, safe position here at long range. The rest of the Defiant are ready to brawl against this Tracer.
It'll be rally from London as they want to push all the way up through the high ground, but if you're Toronto, you can just back up. Now they're going to use the Transcendence and try and get aggressive behind it.
I love the Pulse Bomb there. It cuts through the Transcendence, healing like a hot knife through butter, and Aspire is taken down. It's still a 1-for-1, and Hardy is again the first casualty here for the Spitfire. They don't have that Wrecking Ball pressure, and that cart, mate, is sat. I mean, it's still sat in Kansas, Dorothy.
Yeah, I mean, even if you're able to make something out of this fight, you have gained 0 cart presence, you've progress as well. Like, now you end up losing your Tracer. That's a huge source of your damage. Now, if you're Toronto, I think you get aggressive here.
Can they into an EMP, I guess is the question. Lastro preemptively Transcendence in the previous fight, so there's not a support ultimate to really gird the Defiant against that.
Watch Hisu to EMP early here, though. You have to have an idea that Blase has it.
Lastro, okay, he's hit with that. Ansung Jay's going to be the first casualty, and there it is. Well, Reaper's down, so no Zenyatta, no Discord Orb means that Sato can do a little bit more work. It's an EMP late from Hisu. He gets taken down right after the fact, but Sato now gets to run wild. Again, no Discord Orb means that Michelle can keep him alive that much longer, but eventually he succumbs. Now it's Michelle and Aspire, who's looking for that kill on the Wrecking Ball, and Hardy gives it straight to him. He just pile drivers inexplicably out in the open. Aspire's able to pick him off, and it's a great pulse bomb from the aforementioned to desuit Molfig. Hisu returns here on the Widowmaker, and a Spitfire are rapidly running out of options. Now it's just skeet shooting for Hisu. He sits back, and that's that.
It's a really good defense there from Toronto. They realize the weaknesses of London playing this comp, and they're doing a great job of taking advantage of it. Where I know the EMP comes out from Blase, I believe only connecting to both supports at that time. Where even then they took a lot of damage, London, just going in to get those 2 kills. Where you looked at where the cart was, and even if they get maybe another kill out of that, you would have been able to contest that if you're Toronto. You don't even have the cart to, really that tough choke point by where the bridge is. You would have had players coming back off the spawn. So after that, Hisu just comes in with an EMP of his own, and that's enough to seal the deal for the Toronto Defiant.
It's kind of insane there, the way that broke down. You are short-handed by 2 players at the start of that fight. You have no supports at all. It really is quite remarkable. And Hisu goes in, EMPs, dies instantly. So between Sato, Michelle, and Aspire, you're dominating. Here's how this goes down. This is the dying seconds map.
I mean, that is such a better value, the EMP, right? The EMP there for Toronto connects with 4 players all around the cart. The other one for London, I believe, was just on Asun Jay and Lastro.
That's fine if you dive in, pick them off, and then look safe. But your ability to follow up on them is also impacted by the fact that you're EMP'd.
It's fine, but you also have to kind of take into context like the map and the position of the cart, and like, in a lot of situations that is fine. But here on Rialto, we know how hard it is to get the cart through that choke. It is very easy to stall that out with tanks, playing around the corners, juggling. Like, even with those 2 kills and consistent cart movements, you would have been able to continue fighting that. As you lose Blase here at the start, that is rough. I mean, now you do not have a hack for Sato. He can just kind of go into your team without any type of worry here.
Again, plenty of time for the Defiant to work with here. Shaxx playing that corner. Reaper really hoping to get some big impact with Discord Orb here. And also hope that Aspire doesn't just rip him a new one. So far, that card is being allowed to progress a fair bit, and Shaxx is stalling it on his own. It's because, frankly, Hardy can't. He needs to be in an initiation role here and not in a sort of positional cart stalling one. Blase's in the back line, harassing the Defiant here. He gets a manual hack on Michelle.
I might need this later.
No follow-up.
Still have the cart moving, though.
Yeah, it's still coming, bro.
Yeah, you still have Toronto just gaining positioning time and time again. Like, you're in a position where, nice shot there from Reaper, but no, nice. you win 1 fight if you're Toronto. You're close to winning the map with the amount of cart progress they gave you. I mean, think about when Toronto was on defense. It took London so long to get around that first corner.
The cart may progress further earlier, but the Spitfire are able to come up and come alive. Start off by getting rid of Ansun Jay there. Shaxx is wanting to play pretty deep at the moment. Almost got hacked earlier on there in the courtyard. That would have been the end of him, but he's able to deftly avoid it. We're down to 2 minutes and 15 for the Defiant.
Yeah, but even then, though, Mitch, right? You say 2 minutes, right? Doesn't seem like a ton of time. I mean, where the cart is, you have Transcendence coming online. You have an EMP. I mean, Hisu has gotten so much faster. You lose Lastro, so Shaq's making this interesting, getting these picks.
Another second, Lastro survives that. He was 99% on his Transcendence, just didn't have it when he needed it. But again, as far as the Defiant's concerned, all right, you force a couple ultimates, or at least have them used on you. You're not too upset. The crucial one's definitely that Transcendence. Reaper not being pressured nearly as much this round, and has been able to have a much more impact. This Discord from him here is what is making this so scary for Sato. No way. Force the recall there for Shax, the pile driver. Struck true, but Sato can't escape.
Yeah, I mean, he is discorded. He's in just no man's land. We're just sitting in basically every member of the London Spitfire with no help. So not surprising to see Sato dead. I mean, this has been a pretty lackluster attack now here from Toronto, where now they have not been able, at least London was able to kind of access some of this high ground. Toronto was not able to access it at all. They're relying on the CMP.
Can they get Ripper? They need the Zen. They get him just. Michelle's having to pick Ripper up, and it's a trade for Lastro, so both teams lacking the Transcendence. Neither Zen had a chance to use those key ultimates. And maybe if you're Lastro, you hoped you could have stuck around just a little longer for that. Shax is not going to be able to do too much with his Pulse Bomb, and he's low. Just one blink he needs to keep his distance from Aspire, who goes deep and takes a ton of damage himself. This is a self-destruct here. It's going to create a little bit of space, but the Transcendence is active now for the Spitfire. Lastro's holding onto his, waiting, biding his time. There's going to be opportunity soon to use it, but it's too late to save Ansun Jay's life. Now the Defiant, a downer player, even with the Transcendence in play, they're lacking that CC ability and the extra healing for Brig. I mean, Lastro had nowhere to go there. That self-destruct was always going to take him down, and Blase beat it to the punch. Now we're in the danger zone. 17 seconds left for Toronto.
I mean, they're just... Toronto is beef this offense. London has done a nice job protecting Rippa on the high ground, but Toronto's been able to get nothing as you're going to get a D-Mech here onto Michelle.
Aspire's dead.
Kill on Aspire. I mean, this is going to be a hold here for the London Spitfire. Toronto not even able to make it back to the cart.
We are witnessing two teams that are gripped by indecision at critical moments, it seems. Neither team wants to play particularly fast or loose, but they're getting picked apart. It's the slow, lumbering pace at which the Defiant advanced, I guess, with that cart really hurt them in the end. And again, Lastro gets bullied. Doesn't get to use his Transcendence in great situations. They end up losing the Ansun Jay before he can even pop that Transcendence. It's a nightmare scenario here for the Defiant. But great stuff from the Spitfire to hold off on defense there. They back up a pretty lackluster attack of their own. So that's an even series, ladies and gentlemen. Stay tuned here. These two teams are throwing haymakers, and there's plenty more to come after this. Over 2 million picks have been made so far this season, and a new tournament series, of course, means a new bracket is unlocked. A new way to boom your friends by picking the most ridiculous teams to win and somehow being right. That's the same strategy being tried on the desk right now from our own Johnny Reinforce Larson. Can you get a perfect bracket for the Countdown Cup? If you have a perfect bracket already so far, you have my respect, if not my somewhat disgust about some of those picks. Go to pick'em.overwatchleague.com to submit your picks for this week's matches, of course, and don't forget to get those picks in.
Yeah, I tried to pitch John that they should make a miniature statue of me for whoever wins, but it didn't go through.
Wouldn't that just be life-size, Matthew?
I knew you were gonna come. You know, yeah. All you got is these short jokes.
No, yeah, that's true. No, I literally, I don't pretend to have any other material. I just
one day you're gonna see me again. You're gonna regret all these short jokes. You're gonna be like, man.
I'm not used to craning my neck down that low, but I'll keep that. I'll look
just
out for you, big guy.
I've just been doing push-ups, staring at a picture of you making short jokes about me. So. Aztec comes in for Lastro. That's cool. We also have Nice coming back in here. Forspire said the last map was just a little bit of disaster, I think, for both teams.
Yep.
I mean, just a lot of passiveness from Toronto. London on their offense, just kind of, not able to coordinate as well. I mean, this series, though, I think what it kind of tells you is that this series is wide open for London to be able to win it. Like, Toronto should have been able to come in here, right, and really kind of, build upon what we've seen from them in the good spots this season against a struggling team and take advantage of this moment and get a win here, in the final tournaments of the year. And it does not seem like they're going to kind of seize that moment. They're going to let London hang around in this series, which is a scary thing.
I wonder how much that has to do with hero pool, because the Defiant looked really good earlier on in the season. In fact, I think it was the May Melee where they showed us some of their best. Here, of course, slightly different compositions. Sato and the Winston might be a good sign, but I mean, Matt, this is not what we expect better from the Defiant, I think, after
this should be a good hero pool for Toronto, though. Like, Sato can play, maybe it's a Winston or a Ball. Hisu's on the Sombra. We talked about Sato and Hisu as like a dive tank, whether it's Ball or Winston, and the Sombra combo was great last year towards the end with the Philadelphia Fusion. Michelle has been strong on the Diva, like you mentioned. This is a team that shouldn't really be that impacted by the hero pools. Like, you think it definitely impacts London more with kind of like the slower playstyle they would like to play.
So Aztec here is subbed in. Don't see him nearly as much. But again, another flex support player. Baps and Ana are his most notable picks, and he hails from the Uprising Academy.
See you later.
See what he has for us here. Is the Defiant definitely look better with the Winston Ana variation of this composition on Ilios? We'll see what they can do here. Losing Sato early, not ideal, but he was stunned up and had nowhere to go.
So now you have to just kind of back up here. If you're Toronto, not an opportunity to even farm that nano, right? Because Sato is that target where you see Ripa, I mean, already at 80% towards this nano boost.
Pretty quick. Pretty good for defenders as well, considering how much more damage the attackers tend to take just by virtue of filtering in that EMP, though. That's a nasty one. Still, not enough to keep Hardy going. Sorry, it was a manual hack, excuse me. Here's a pulse bomb now thrown in. Mulfi's able to avoid that one, but Shaxx and Reaper fall. And Nice can't quite get away, but the Defiant have the numbers to move in with. They'll be fine.
If London is able to figure out a way to keep Hadi alive early in these fights, like they could easily win this series. Because you lose Hadi there, you have no nano boost target, you're not going to invest EMP. It's an opportunity to potentially hold on to checkpoint A. They end up losing it there. And now Nice will switch over and play the Reaper. So even with this EMP, Reaper's not really that impacted by the EMP. Also, you're already having a tough time keeping Hadi alive early in these fights. It's going to be even harder now. That's going to be an EMP that just gets both supports, and they're going to nano Hadi in this.
Getting rid of the Ana is pretty big, though. Finding Nice after that.
With this?
I mean, the amount of ultimates being committed, or what? This in
like
general
if you're Toronto, like, are you like, like, is that really the worst thing, right?
Well,
Like,
no,
they
I mean,
invest the nano and EMP, and you're gonna now come back with both supports to grab an EMP, right?
I think that the EMP is a huge issue for you if you're trying to attack here. So you're fine. You actually have to worry less about where Blase is outside of the manual hack. But again, you know, your comp is more resilient to that now with the Reaper in the mix. I mean, that cannot be happening. That cannot be happening. Hardy gets caught out there by the Reaper. Not ideal. Let's see what happens here from the Defiant. They're still pushing in. Speaking of Reaper, Reaper down. Sada's just going to hold the door here. Just a devastating situation, losing Hardy that early. Nice looking, kind of nasty on the Reaper. He'll return to the point here to go to anti-tank duties, and he'll let someone else worry about Shax, who's constantly harassing from the backside. Nice can really lifesteal through a lot of that Primal Winston, but he's going to go elsewhere. Instead, he heads to the back line. The sleep dart was there, but Nice got awoken by something. Unclear what it was. Ansu J's gone down. Hardy has to bubble himself here as he tries to deal with the Reaper, who won't escape. And he'll go over the top. The Defiant are going to get pushed out here, Matt, but quite a great cost. There's 2 ticks.
Yeah, 2 ticks. You still have 3 minutes and 50 on the clock, as I think Shax's just being a nuisance for the backline really kind of extended that fight for the London Spitfire. Also pretty fortunate that Hardy ended up having Primal Rage, but they used the Nano Boost to end up farming that hut. We'll see now if they go aggressive yet again. You have Blase in position here directly above the members of Toronto, and he's going to go in. That's going to be a 3-player EMP.
A great response, though. Aztac just walks on back. It took the Pulse Bomb to get rid of Ansunjay as well. So the London Spitfire have to invest a little more heavily there, as the Defiant are actually able to disengage to a degree after getting EMP.
So they don't use the Nano, though. Like the last time they ended up using the EMP
the Winston,
plus the
right?
Nano, right? Yeah, they Nano the Winston.
But I mean, you don't want your Winston to die to Reaper while you're busy diving, so I can see why.
Yeah. I feel like, though, they're almost in a position where they just want to use the Nano to try and keep Hardy alive. I mean, he's dying so early in some of these fights.
That bio was sick. Nicely done from Reaper. Hit Michelle and Ansunjay, if I'm not mistaken, so that is how you win a fight cheaply. 1 ultimate committed. Nice, he's got nowhere to go. And then the Spitfire are easing into this defense a little bit more now. Their just margin of error is very slim, and they have to contest with EMP Blossom next fight. So they're not out of the woods yet, but they're shaving off some key seconds here.
This is good, though, for London, if they can keep holding close and cycling these ultimates the right way. Even if they EMP and Nano and Blossom here at the choke, you're still going to be able to, make something happen on the point. You can stall for so long here on Anubis.
Shax again has been a problem for the Defiant, constantly harassing their backline. Manual hack there on Molvik, stops him in his tracks, but immediately to his rescue comes Hardy. It's going to be an EMP that catches both frontliners, and Sato needs to make good on the backline, but he gets slept by Ripper, who's had an excellent Ana round so far. And now there'll be a manual hack on the Winston. Sato has to trundle away, and he won't be allowed to escape. Nice actually decides to pop the Death Blossom and catches Shax, but it doesn't look great in the aftermath.
Yeah, I guess if you're just going to kind of invest the Nano, invest Primal, you may as well maybe use the Death Blossom, and then are we going to see some wholesale changes? Like, are we going to see like a Tracer come in here? Are we going to see them going to go to a much different comp? Yeah, so they'll play the Tracer. Not really much of a reason to use the Death Blossom and then not switch off of that. So Tracer now, but look at this. You put yourself in such a bad spot if you're Toronto, where, London, like I mentioned, you don't lose Hardy there on that point A. You may have actually been able to hold it a bit longer as they look much better here on the second point.
Oh, the timing! It's great! Ansu Jay was going to give a lot of healing and armor to his teammates. If that Pulse Bomb hadn't connected, Shax really cuts that off at the quick. And that was really one of the best chances for the Defiant to have a durable chance at a team fight. They've lost that. They've got no EMP. The Tracer switch means no, Death Blossom on the horizon. This is not good for the Defiant.
Not good at all. I mean, once you've settled in here for London, and the kind of ultimate economies across the board stabilized and got a little bit even, London's been dominant here on defense. But I also think you see, Hardy not having to play the Wrecking Ball here probably a benefit for the London Spitfire, like I mentioned, probably hurt by the hero pool more than anything.
Michelle trying to get a decent vantage point here, but has to give that up pretty quickly to try and get some peel going on. Pulse connected somehow. Molvik actually walked backwards into it after losing the mech. Not good for the Spitfire. The defense has been pretty airtight so far. They've lost Blase as well. And I don't know if Hardy can do much more from here than he's already done. 2 kills is big. Getting Aztec out of the equation is also massive. It's hard for the Defiant to have a long fight now without that Ana in the mix. Self-destruct is really only good for a remake here from Michelle, and Sato is trying to sow as much chaos as possible. But now that he's grounded by being hacked, what more can he do? Hardy gets a nano boost now and is threatening that front line. Sato is down, Michelle is desuited, and he'll be removed as well. 78.9 is all the Defiant are going to get here on Anubis.
So a pretty nice win condition here for the London Spitfire. You know, take checkpoint A, 80% on the second one. We'll get it done. So they looked much better once they kind of stabilized, like we talked about. You know, on
Bread
that
bowlers are in
checkpoint
shambles,
B.
Matt. Shambles!
Right, yeah, true. A win here would, yeah, that would ruin the bread bowl. Well, London doesn't really have any ties to, like, a bread
That's
sponsor
true.
or anything.
I mean,
It's really just for the Titans, see if they can get bread.
Yeah.
I actually am starting to feel like London is going to win this series. Like, the more we see the first map, obviously, like, it goes down to the wire. But even then, the first map, right? Like, London looked good when they were playing the 76, playing a little bit of, like, a slower, not really putting a lot of reliance on Hadi to be, like, the main initiator, kind of problem starter for the other team. Sato potentially going to be playing this ball on defense. We can take a look. This is going to be Hadi's Primal Rage here at the end.
Getting the honor here is massive. Even more than just getting the kill, just staggering the positioning of the Defiant so much that they've got 2 tanks fighting with no
both
heals.
supports.
Hardy looks pretty crisp on that Winston today, Matthew.
Do they play? Will they play the ball on offense? I wonder if they see this and then maybe have Hadi switch back to the Winston. So you're gonna have the ball defense here for
Against
Toronto. I think the ball may be tough for Toronto to even play on the second checkpoint with the way they've kind of played.
I mean, ball defense is unconventional on this map. At least that was our initial expectation. Oh, it's terrible to be Brig against Farah. It's it's bad. It ain't fun. Nice, though. Almost gets taken down by Hardy, who accosts him on the top of that little archway. And again, what do they do about the Farah?
Oh, well, I think they're just trying to draw them away from the choke. Hadi and Shaxx working towards that left-hand side. The issue is they can have to have Molfig here at the choke to protect these supports, or else the Farah would just drop right down on their head.
Yeah, getting past this archway is
they're going to kill
gonna
Aztec.
be tough. That's pretty huge. Blase gets himself into the back line here. Nano Boost has been deployed on Kellex. They want to keep him alive. They know they get a crucial pick, so keeping the Brig up, letting her brawl a little bit maybe, punish Sato's Wrecking Ball. It forces him out of the way at the very least here. The cap has begun, 1.5 ticks for the Spitfire, and it's looking like it's going to end in a similar fashion. I like that. Good hack on Sato. They chase it down. Everybody follows up on the Wrecking Ball. And the Spitfire looking pretty good so far.
Yeah, and I thought potentially they were going to use the nano on a Molfig, so he could kind of go up in the air and challenge the Farah Mercy as nicely used the rocket barrage. Gets taken out. This is going to be a change, I imagine, over to Tracer here. So yeah, he'll swap over to Tracer. But London, because they played this comp already, Sato switches over to the Winston, which is like, why didn't you just run the Winston on the first point? It's just so odd. So this will be a nano here and EMP use, trying to just stabilize on defense now for Toronto.
As the EMP starts off the fight, they actually, I mean, they spend big in that fight, Matthew.
Yeah, they have to, right? But now London comes back with some ultimates of their own.
Maybe just the EMP's enough that you hope it is if you get good enough connection. I guess the Defiant wanted to make sure they stop the momentum, but okay.
Start to build closer towards a primal, I guess, but
Sato doesn't. Yeah, sure. Look, he's halfway there after one fight is nice. Self-destruct. Okay, I like this.
It's pretty ambitious self-destruct.
Is there a what?
He's hacked. He's hacked.
Oh man, are you sure? There's no Sombra on the assist on the offensive elimination.
It looked like he was hacked, but
maybe that forced an early recall or God knows what. Either way, not a good result here for the Defiant, but they can recover because they're obviously much closer to the situation. But they've lost Hishu now as well. That EMP is going to be taking a while to build up once more. Sato's heroics, though, have really kept this alive for the Defiant. Nice primal.
And what's bad about this, though, Mitch? We didn't get to see it from our POV, but Sato popped the Primal, jumped in, and got selected midair, and somebody on London woke him up, and then he killed both supports.
Oh, I hate that.
That is brutal there for London. But I like this change now for London. You get Hottie back on the Winston. I think he's looked much more comfortable on the Winston than playing the ball so far in this series. Nano coming in. I think maybe you're trying to save some ultimates here if you're London.
Oh, okay.
Now you can go. Oh, the EMP here.
Nice, has to do something with the Pulse Bomb. A kill would be good. Anything. Nothing. In fact, Michelle's so low. He'll be chased down and desuited. Another nightmare scenario unfolding here for the Defiant, but they're getting awful used to it at this point. No Michelle, no durability, just the rally here to try and carry them through, but Kellex has one of his own, and now he's getting ready to handle Sato. No connection there on the whip shot, though, so Sato can contest for a little bit longer. That's 1.5 ticks and counting. Michelle forced back a little bit there, and you can see Nice trying to go deep with his hit with a biotic grenade, and probably had to recall there fairly early. Hardy low. He'll step back here. Can see Reaper's trying to attend to him right now. Maybe the Winston bubble cutting that healing off. He's able to dodge away from the Pulse Bomb there, and Kellex is down. Sato comes back here. He may be saving the day after things went wrong from his dive, and he has. Another Primal from Sato secures the Tracer kill.
Yeah, I think the fight just started a little bit further out for London than they probably would have wanted, and you're not able to get enough point progress to win the map, right? If that fight kind of happens maybe closer towards the choke and not really kind of in this alleyway, maybe it's a different story. As
they're going to do it again.
Isu looks, he looks like he's setting up for the EMP yet again in this corner. Maybe they're trying to farm Nano first, though.
Molfig is not spy checking behind. So that EMP connects. Here's the dive to follow it up. Kellex just blows up. Nice aim there from Aztec with a pretty long-range biotic grenade. Losing R2J there shouldn't be too much of an issue. Hardy Primal? No way. Okay. Surely not, I thought.
He's going for
this
the back half.
Messy.
Yeah, it is messy, and it's kind of like back and forth here, but like London can't do anything, right? They need to wait for Hottie. You have a Nano now for Sato to build up this Primal. As Toronto's done a really nice. Toronto's done a really nice job of just kind of cycling through these ultimates now, always having an answer for something. What is Blase looking for with this EMP?
They want Toronto to come back to the point, I think, in the fight to happen there. Okay, no. Yeah, I mean, it's still a pretty deep EMP. What's the follow-up looking like? Wow, Shax gets blown up instantly. Nice couldn't blink away, so you understand why he maybe gets eliminated there. And Hardy needs a kill here. We got Nice before that, so that's a great way of displacing that Brig player. He gets a nano boost now, so Hardy wants to get some proper eliminations here and get those spawns on the timer. But no one's really giving him a straight-up fight. Still the one tick right now, Michelle. Okay, self-destruct, can't desuit again. Now self-destruct thrown into the catacombs. Shax with 2. That'll be it, surely. Aztec going down, but killing an enemy Tracer with a Pulse Bomb is quite notable. Ansu J goes for the rally, but gets blown up before he can do anything with it. Sato needs to buy some time, and he does more than that. He buys a frag on Shax.
Not enough, yeah.
What a messy fight. I mean, that kill there on the Tracer is so big. How mad are you, by the way? A double Pulse Bomb kill from Shax, and you're still not getting the point.
Well, they're using these nanos for London so early. We saw the nano that they used on Hottie there. He's just standing there on the point, like getting absolutely zero value out of it. Well, meanwhile, when Toronto is doing it, Sato's going into the back line, taking out 2 people each and every time. You have a rally, though, and a nano here for London. Has to be good.
Here goes the rally. Reaper trying to keep Hardy topped up, immediately deploys the nano. He thought about the backline, but instead would try and contest. He knows he can't really lead the point, or is probably afraid to do so. Hansu J's taken down there. Shax combining nicely with Hardy. The damage was there in full. 2 for 2 though. Hisu's forced out of position here after the EMP gets deployed, and Hardy has a Primal. Okay, needs Sato for that. He gets him. Michelle trying to stall out here, and we see Nice come back in on the Reaper. Sorry, it's Hisu rather. Shax's Pulse Bomb. Needs a multi-kill. 1, how many? Just the 1, and he gets traded, and Shax knows just how much that hurts the Spitfire. They won't be getting a cap here, and the Defiant outlast London. These two teams are beating each other black and blue.
Yeah, I mean, both teams trade out their supports there at the end, but it's a huge advantage for Toronto because they have that spawn advantage. And you mentioned They come back with a Reaper off the spawn with no supports available for the London Spitfire. No way they're going to keep the tanks alive through that. And just the reinforcements come in for Toronto, as that was winnable for London. I think they're going to be kicking themselves going back and watching that.
Tension starting to build in this series now, and obviously there's a lot on the line for the Spitfire, but the Defiant also can't afford to lose a game like this. That means this map 4 is going to be extra spicy, so don't go too far. This is the Overwatch League. here we are after an incredibly back and forth. Temple of Anubis. It really, I mean, you have one team that's 0-12, one is 6-6. Today, they look evenly matched. It has been a very close series so far, and it's been a game of inches. The Defiant managed to squeak out a win, and it was squeaky indeed on their previous map. And now the Spitfire, I mean, dealing with their fair share of frustration after the map. I saw how Shax looked on camera after he died to his own pulse there. Pretty brutal stuff, but not much you can do about it, Matthew. You've just got to go again.
Yeah, I mean, I would be super angry if I was a player on London. I mean, this is like you mentioned, you know, kind of a back and forth match. This is sometimes both teams look like they're 6-6, and sometimes both teams look like they're 0-12. I mean, it's been an opportunity-filled match here for London. This is one where they win the second map. The first one was extremely winnable, right? And then they hold on defense, and they had a path to victory there on Temple of Anubis. They're just not able to close it out. I mean, it looks like Toronto in a position to win this match, but man, I mean, London, I feel like this is a missed opportunity, especially looking for that first win of the season.
Both these rosters playing fairly similar looking compositions, right? They have middling success with the Wrecking Ball and Zenyatta setup. Switching to Winston Ana seems to yield them some slightly better results. I think there are other corollaries of using that team comp that we can discuss later, but obviously a lot of Sombra Tracer here. This is Hisu's Sombra stats so far. And again, obviously getting a lot of hacks, a lot of manual hacks. We're seeing plenty of Tracers actually getting killed as a result of these Sombra hacks here. So pretty solid stuff here. I mean, we don't have a lot to compare it to, obviously. But again, with Sombra, you really want to be looking at how you're disrupting those tanks. We're seeing a bunch of times, you know, guys like Molf and Michelle getting hacked as they're trying to use their mobility to get a better view of the battlefield.
And I think looking at least the rosters for this next map coming in, there's no Sparker for London. Again, player we're really excited about, where you thought like, you know, Shax and Sparker could be a really good DPS combo for a match like this. Not seen it thus far. It looks like for Toronto, you know, really the only thing they've kind of changed is Aztec and Lastro back and forth. You'll have Lastro in for the next map. But man, I feel for London. No, they've had some other matches, right, that have been close throughout the tournaments, but they never really felt winnable. Does that make sense? Like, you know, they've kind of gone the distance with teams, but they never really like felt like the series like kind of like could decidedly be theirs. This one does though. Like this one really feels like, and I think it just kind of shows you like how, you know, volatile a team like Toronto is, where they can play up to their opponent on one weekend, right? You know, and take some of the best teams the distance and actually beat them, but then also just kind of, you know, play down to their opponents in certain situations. I believe we have the clip when I was talking about Sato getting woken up with Primal here. Yeah, so
Primal.
Yeah, looks like it may have been. Yeah, but this actually ends up having both supports getting killed here. You had a rally, you had EMP. This actually may have been your best opportunity to take it, because you look, the only thing available for Toronto is the Primal, and you already have the Sombra dead. And you wake up the Primal and he gets both supports. Where, honestly, looking back at it with kind of what ultimates are available at that time, and the situation where you had, you know, a ton of time for London, that may have been the game right there. You had a lot of ultimates. You already had one pick. They had nothing. You had to sleep onto the Primal. And then whether it was, I don't know if it was Kellic swinging or if it was Hadi rolling back into him. Somebody woke him up. Doesn't really matter who it is. They woke him up.
Could even have been a whip shot. Something knocked him back. It looked like it could have been Hadi. It's irrelevant. It's irrelevant unless you're
he got up regardless.
To find out, unless you want to know who to blame in those situations, like someone wakes up your target and you're like me and you get in comms, you're like, okay, who was that? Who slapped the Winston? Tell me. Who waked the Winston rather? Tell me now. Kills me.
Oh, I mean, when you're playing Ana, it's always who slept the Winston, because everyone's surprised you're able to hit it. Everyone's like, wait, who's that? Was that our Genji deflecting their sleep dart into the Winston?
The same confusion you had when I glocked you into next Tuesday, mate. He's spinning around on Hangzhou like a bloody Matryoshka doll, mate. Got no idea what's going on. You know, hey, that one's on Twitter, baby.
Paying people to edit those clips, fake clips. You know, that's what it is.
You be the judge. You be the judge, chat.
Yeah, you can see, if you watch the video, you can see the jump cuts. You can see it's taken from multiple different times. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Multiple different occasions that I
didn't even bother responding to it on Twitter. I found that to be nonsense.
I didn't tag you. I didn't want to throw that kind of shade at you, mate. Actually, I think the person who put it up might have, but that's not my problem. You know?
Yeah. That's true. That's just my problem to deal with.
Oh, well, Matt's getting professional assistance for that particular quandary. We'll see what the Spitfire have on defense here. So they're playing the Wrecking Ball defense, Matt, which is, you know, getting more and more prevalent here. Started making it look like Trackmania out there.
You play it on Numbani here because you want to like keep the Wrecking Ball for, you know, the later stages of the map, through the second phase and then the last stage of the map. So the Wrecking Ball, you know, does make some sense on defense here. You want to hold on to those ultimates, which really that's kind of the most important thing as, you know, time goes on.
A lot of space taken here by the Defiant, but Shax has been able to make his way into the back and pick Lastro out of the bunch again. This means here the Defiant don't want to overextend any further now, especially at the risk of losing their only remaining support. Shax is fantastic start for him on this Tracer.
You do see Toronto get a little bit aggressive, and I actually kind of, well, they tried to get aggressive, right? But I kind of agree with that decision because as soon as you lose Lastro, you know, you're kind of weak. You know they're coming in. Like, you kind of have to do something. Like, you're not gonna... Your best chance is to probably just try and fight that, right? So... they get around the corner, though. Now they'll start to come in again here with this Pharah, just kind of poking at long range, and the Tracer trying to follow it up.
Ripper's very low. Molfig just, I mean, he's at the point where he's like, I'm going to body block you if I run out of DM. And that's how important it is to keep that Zenyatta standing. But Molfig's not going anywhere for the time being. He's hacked, but well and truly out of the purview of the rest of the Defiant, so he can recover.
Right, but that's where you want to have another player in position to dive there. That's a hack on the Shax, and then you're able to take him out. That's a huge opening here for Toronto. Yeah, look, one of the biggest performers for the Spitfire now has been taken off the table. Kellex is also removed by Nice as he finally feels he can be a bit more aggressive. That's a Transcendence from Ripper. And that's all I'll say about that one. I think he was trying to save Molf. Maybe trying to save another player who's just a little bit late, but... Molf's going to lose his mech. You're going to lose Ripper as well. You see Molf just trying to get into line of sight of Kellex to get those armor packs, but that's going to be a minefield on the point. Maybe you can keep this going here if you're London.
Kellex is taken down by the barrage here. Shax staying alive would have been a win condition for sure. Nice is able to pick him off as Shax was just looking elsewhere, as you tend to do in the heat of battle. And so to the Defiant, takes them about 2 minutes, 15 seconds, but they're on the road here. And they've got over 4 minutes to work with.
Yeah, London's going to have a Pharah spawn for a lot of their players, so probably going to get some payload progress here. Going to have a minefield come out early as they want to get the payload pretty far, breaking that break shield, just forcing them back a little bit. So you want to try and get at least to the corner of that bus, right? You get to the corner of the bus, you can fight there, you have a chance to just make the, say, one fight stage of the map.
And Shax is absolutely looking for Lastro if you can find him. That's so annoying, the health pack hack there. It's more annoying for Shax than anyone else who has to go further and further back behind his own lines to get topped up. Doesn't want to stand in front of Reaper for 3 seconds. EMP's here. Frontline is the only thing that's hit, but Sato survives it. Oh, he gets the nano boost now as well, so EMP doesn't find too much there.
I mean, you EMP and you lose everybody in the fight. That's crazy. As you have Sato go over to Winston because they see the Ana on the other side. It's an easy dive target. No Discord damage coming down, right? Now you can easily farm up the nanos onto Sato. Sato is a tremendous Winston player, able to stay alive. As that'll be Toronto taking the second checkpoint as London wants to stay on this Wrecking Ball comp.
Especially with the mines here. Can definitely be effective, of course, in this underpass. That's where the Spitfire choose to try and take the fight. Nice again, it's just going to make sure no one gets to use that platform on the defending side. And there's that minefield. And sure, yeah, look, it gives pause for thought for the Defiant. They don't want to go too close, but Sato's clearing them right now, and straight from above, it's nice. Getting rid of Reaper there. Yeah, that might be enough. Kellex is, well, completely lost at sea. They're trying to get back towards his spawn. Nice, showing some really dynamic Pharah play here, Matt.
Yeah, the comp is so mobile for Toronto that, like, who is that minefield really kind of deterring from getting through the choke? You know, they just kind of walk right past
it. Slowed Sato down, that's about it.
Yeah, but you still, I mean, you have 4 minutes plus for Toronto, right? Like, slowing them down at this point doesn't really help you. You need fight wins.
Shax knows there's a defense matrix in place, so he just goes the old-fashioned way. Slappers only, gets rid of Lastro, and that's a stick! Not too bad, takes Michelle rather low, but Sato gets rid of Reaper yet again. He's being targeted this map so far. So half of the Spitfire to keep their flex support in play, and he gets yet another one. Nice knockoff there on Kellex. The EMP comes out. It doesn't deactivate the minefield. The timing isn't quite there. So there's a lot of damage taken by the Defiant that are sat on the card here, but looks like they're going to win out. They still got Mercy and Ana in play both, and Sato just needs a little bit more. Should be enough now with Kellex being removed in 2 minutes and 40 seconds thereabouts on the clock. Pretty good time for Toronto here, Matthew.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Toronto made the necessary changes to get fight wins consistently, where London, I think their weakest look so far has been those Wrecking Ball comps, and an opportunity to maybe kind of fall back on Winston a little bit later, especially when they switch over to the Ana, and they never go to it. So I do feel like, though, in this tournament, you're going to have to play the Wrecking Ball comps at the highest level, right, to be able to get wins against these teams. So it's something London's going to have, as we move on through the Countdown Cup. Today, it just doesn't seem to be as coordinated as you would have hoped.
Yeah, we see the Defiant switch over to the Winston-based setup, right? They feel like they're comfortable there. Sato is, I'd say Winston definitely one of his best heroes. I think he showed some of his best play in the past on it here, but so this is nice in the dying moments and some uncanny connections here. Really nice looks from him. Again, a quieter series. Toronto looked less flashy on the Tracer Sombra, but when they get to play a bit of that Pharah, and obviously there's no hit scan to sort of deal with Neist, he gets to play a little bit more aggressively, a bit more bravado.
So we'll see how the London Spitfire decide to attack. We haven't really seen them play any Pharah. Yeah, really, it's just kind of been after that we saw them win the one round with the 76, right? It's really just been Tracer Sombra, which, you can't play 76 on, every map. You just can't do it. But, maybe have, the Pharah look in the mix, right? That they've looked pretty decent when we've seen them on the Winston at times, with the Winston Ana. Toronto playing the Winston Ana here with the Pharah on defense. And the Sombra paired with it. I also think it's pretty safe for them to play the Pharah, because they know that they're, they have not really shown that they're gonna, switch to any type of counter to it. So
none of this Bunker Tor, McCree stuff at all from the Spitfire, and that's maybe where Sparkle would actually have been a factor, right? That's maybe why you would sub someone like him in. With Ash out of the pool, it probably limits him quite a lot. Oh, great concussive blast. Kellex can't escape back into the tunnel. Nice is able to pick him off. Look at that, the peeling Pharah. Oh my god. This guy's got everything.
And the way they would try and kind of come out and win this, London, is get the Discords on Sato, stay alive up on the high ground. Maybe you can have the Tracer Sombra with the ball, pressure out the supports. But right now, Sato's been doing an excellent job, just getting up there to the high ground, denying Kellex and Ripper the space to come in. That breaks the line of sight with those supports. If those supports aren't in the line of sight of the rest of the team, they're pretty much useless. And then it's really kind of taking a ball Molfix time, trying to keep them alive.
None of his tip, Sato. He's... Oh! Yep, just one half of his pincer. I like that from Neist. Obviously, the Zenyatta's model would actually splash some of that damage back on him. Turns away. Quite aggressive.
Don't see that every day, though.
No, definitely not. Hardy couldn't go anywhere there.
Zen body blocking the rocket barrage in a doorway.
We've seen him blocking Deadeyes. Body blocking Deadeyes in the past. That's always fun.
Yeah. But you can just kind of put a body in nice space and kind of get the same. Now you don't have Transcendence.
And there's the EMP. Reaper kept alive though. Nice job. Good presence of mind from Molfig there. I guess he wasn't hit with the EMP because he had Defense Matrix. Fair play to him. Last throw is down. Shaq's finally drawing some blood on a crucial target at that. That's 2 ticks now for London. Michelle steps up here. Hardy gets blown up once more, but Michelle won't get popped out into the self-destruct. It's a safe barrage there from Neist. Gets a bit of damage done, but that EMP comes out here from Blase. This could turn around. Neist catches him with the rockets. It may have all gone wrong. Again, I feel like I'm saying that all the time this series.
This is the most bizarre series ever. Toronto EMPs, they lose everybody. Then London EMPs, and they immediately lose 3 people. It's like the EMP is taking their own teammates' abilities offline, not the others. So we get a nano boost onto the Pharah here. As Nice just putting down damage on the choke. This is where the supports are trying to come through, but it doesn't look like Rippa's going to be able to get in position to get safely through this choke.
I mean, listen, the Spitfire don't have much to deal with Nice, and frankly, Ripper is very vulnerable to this kind of fire play from directly above. Blase, however, can do something about it. Nice gets his wings clipped, and Sato also gets caught up in that main choke. The Transcendence is used because the Spitfire have to use everything they have. They just throw themselves at this point with only one tick remaining. They'll have it.
Still a good defense, though, from Toronto, right? Down to 30 seconds on the clock. You get a fight win here in the Streets phase, and you're in a fantastic spot to hold. As London, they know these players will spawn a little bit closer. They want to try and put some pressure, get them out, force them on that long respawn. So this is really good for the London Spitfire, being able to come up with some of these kills. They just need to live on through this.
Hardy. Back to the rest of his team now. Kelex has a rally in this next fight here, so I'm very curious to see what kind of purchase Hitsu will gain with his EMP. Again, if you can win a fight early here for Toronto, you can stop London from moving any further on this map.
Yeah, you're going to be able, Toronto, to use the nano boost on the Sato early to just maybe like force out a rally, get like a minefield out. We'll see even if they combo it with the EMP just to get a fight win. You get a fight win here, you're in a position to hold. This is a rally and minefield early.
Okay, Sato is happy to just play mystery doors. That shield from Ansunjay very low, but Plaza has to pull away. Sato is down though, so he did go for the primal, and there was a nano boost in that fight, Matt. The Defiant have good ults, they have sick ults in fact. And they get very little value with them.
What happened to Sato's primal?
I mean, it doesn't really matter because this is the fight where, I mean, Ultimate Economy less. Oh, nice! Yep, he was hacked. He was hacked by the EMP.
I wonder if Sato, like maybe got. No, I mean I would love to actually see what happened there. It feels like he got burnt down so fast.
Time to raise my APM.
You got Padro to end the fight. I don't know the rest, to be honest with you. There's a self-destruct, and that's just Malfi getting a remake here. Going to be another point here for the London Spitfires. The Defiant have just, I mean, it feels like they've started to play with half of the same capacity they had on point A. They looked extremely dodgy on that second phase of the map here, and they give the Spitfire a chance.
Yeah, but you're still going to end up with a better time here for Toronto. And you have an EMP, you think EMP rally, maybe a nano boost here. Enough, but really you're just looking at one fight. You need one fight win here. If you're Toronto. Asadi gets so low, he's going to be able to make it out with his life.
Yeah, Nice just wants to control this flank. Doesn't need Blase getting there and hacking the shell when someone needs to be peeled for, or something similar. What a great little pulse bomb there. Nothing Kelex could have done. Reaper also dropping means that, well, that's that.
And that's good. That's exactly what you wanted to see there, though, if you're in Toronto. You get a fight win. Now this kind of really buries the London Spitfire in terms of clock time. You have an EMP coming up. You still have this for the next fight, plus the rally, where you're in a good spot to close this series out for Toronto. It's not a really dominant win like I think you would have probably liked to see, if you're a Toronto fan or even one of the players. But still, escaping this series with the passion it has been with a win, I think is good enough.
One thing's for sure, though, the Defiant continue to be stylistically nondescript in this meta, Matthew. Something that they've definitely faced scrutiny before in the past. Okay, he still was waiting for a chance to use his EMP. He just gets completely dumpstered. Shax's Pulse Bomb is also committed to that situation, so the Defiant could put on an enforced savings plan with some of these ultimates. Sato did Primal, presumably to buy a little bit of time here. Don't know how much more he's expecting to get. His life, I guess, will take.
That's fine, though, because you use the Primal to extend this, make it a little bit longer. Now you have your own EMP plus a nano boost with only 38 seconds on the clock, and they EMP if they lose players again.
Yeah,
I mean,
take fights. Fight after fight after fight. That's what the Defiant are doing here. It's bleeding clock at the very least. Sato just having to be very careful to juggle this aggro. He gets nano, so see what he can do at the back line now. Quick disengage. It was a backward shield bash from Kelex there. He didn't want anything to do with the monkey. Scientist, monkey. Shax has a pulse bomb here, and there's 10 seconds left in the round. The Spitfire need to get some value here. Another Shax pulse bomb would be big.
So that'll be a minefield on the point from Hottie. Kind of left everybody else though, like
he's got to
kind of fend for themselves. Is okay? We got to get somebody on the cart. Okay, all right. We got Shax contesting the cart. For a second, I got scared.
He's being ignored for the most part, though. Unsujay didn't even bother looking at him there. Just delivering a pack to his front line and now deal with these flankers. This is where you love being Brig, frankly. You're just smacking him around and there's not really much that can be done here. The London Spitfire lose Kellex and Shax here. Molfig might be their last chance, but he's shield bashed before he can touch. He'll get at least some more overtime going. And still the Spitfire will be forced to wait for that elusive first victory. It's the Defiant that close it out in 4.
And, you know, Toronto wins this series, Mitch, but it's an ugly one. It's a brawl.
Would you consider a moral
these two
defeat,
teams.
perhaps?
I feel like if you're Toronto, you have to, you kind of have to, like, obviously you win today, but you have to expect your level of play to rise if you're going to contend here in the Countdown Cup. And if you're London, you have to feel like you let a huge opportunity slip here. You know, this is a series that, you know, Toronto came in, they didn't look that great. It was winnable. I mean, you look at these maps, they're kind of close, right? You know, the first map goes down to a 3rd point. You know, the second map, nobody even caps the first point on Rialto. And then Anubis, they're able to hold, but still not win. You know, I feel like if you're London, you may have felt like you let Toronto off the hook, where you're looking for the first win of the season. You know, you have to be able to get these wins.
When we were believing it was possible, I think, watching Temple of Anubis until things
Is that your
just
chair
fell.
behind me? This is not my chair. How did that get there?
Get your chair out of the shot. It's behind you. It's not behind me.
That's how did your chair get into my room?
Just take care of your surroundings, buddy. That's all I'm trying to say.
I have a
come on,
different
we're
color chair.
we're professional.
My chair is different.
I mean,
Okay,
the chair's
well-
behind you. How am I going to sit on the chair that's behind you, my guy? Come on, man.
I don't know.
You can't put this on me, man. Look, look. In fairness, this still, I don't know, maintains the mystique, I suppose, of that matchup between the Spitfire, of course, and the Titans. If both teams remain winless here, but crucially, Toronto, they look a lot better when they get the Arnold, they get the Winston involved, right? I think that's always been a good look for Sato specifically. And again, we know that this team has plenty of great flex supports on there, 2 of them in fact. So here's our player of the match. We're going to go over now. I think Nice looked very good in the last map, but Sato across the whole series, especially his Winston map, looked quite strong.
Yeah, I felt like the biggest difference in the series today between these two teams was the main tank role. I mean, a lot of times we saw Hadi dying early. I don't think either of their wrecking balls was like pretty spectacular, but I think that Sato did a nice job on the Winston, really kind of keeping things alive, specifically on Anubis, and then the last map on Numbani.
Yeah, listen, I think one of the most potent elements of like a 2019, 2020 Philly Fusion was often the Winston defense compositions. Actually, they look really good on maps like Rialto, or any map that had high ground. You know, that team would prefer to play Winston when they could, and not the Reinhardt, even when it was like more of a Reinhardt-friendly meta, for example. And that's because of this guy. Sato very, very good at knowing just how much aggression he can take. It's a slightly higher deaths per 10 than maybe you'd expect for someone, getting a player of the match. But it's important to point out that this has been a very scrappy match, with both teams getting wiped a lot, especially on their attacking side. You think back to Rialto, for example. Still, really strong performance from Sato. We highlighted a clip earlier on where he was woken up from a sleep and then, had a game-changing impact on the fight. This guy is still very dangerous. He's an absolute veteran of the Overwatch League, and it's a huge piece of Toronto's success.
Yeah, I think, though, with the talent on Toronto, they should be better than this. I think when their next match comes around, I think I'd like to see them play, up to their potential, right? With the team that they have, lots of talent across the board. I think they're definitely better than a 500 team.
Yeah, maybe we're looking for some more cleaner victories from the Defiant. There'll be more opportunities for those, though, in the near future. We're going to step aside, and when we return, though, we will get some winning words from Toronto Defiance, Michelle.
Welcome to Game Break, presented by Cheez It Grooves. We're joined now by Michelle from Toronto Defiance. 미셸 선수, 안녕하세요.
안녕하세요.
Alright, so it's been a while since we last saw Toronto Defiance play, and I think it's been about a month. What did you guys do during the break, and were there anything specific you guys prepared for the Countdown Cup? 참 오랜만에 우리 토론토 팀을 보는 것 같아요. 거의 한 달 만에 이제 경기에서 보게 된 것 같은데 지금 그 한 달간 좀 쉬는 시간 동안 좀 뭘 하셨는지, 그리고 또 이번 토너먼트 카운트다운 컵에 들어오면서 좀 특별하게 준비한 게 있나요?
일단 저희가 전 토너먼트에서 떨어지고 이제 좀 휴식을 가지면서 생각을 좀 했어요. 저희가 어떤 부분이 잘못됐는지, 그리고 어떻게 하면 이길 수 있는지 생각을 좀 했고, 이번 카운트다운 컵 들어오면서 어떻게 보면 이번 토너먼트가 플레이오프 가는 그 결정권이라 생각해가지고 저희가 잘할 수 있는 조합을 생각하고 꾸준하게 연습했던 것 같아요.
Alright, so after our last tournament, we of course we took some break, we got a lot of rest, and we sort of thought about what sort of things went wrong, and what were some of the things that we had to improve. And coming into the Countdown Cup, I believe the Countdown Cup is a very important tournament where it leads into the playoffs. So we thought a lot about what sort of compositions will work for the Toronto Defiant. I am going to actually follow up on that. So if you don't mind, can you sort of tell us what compositions are in your beliefs? What do you think is working for the Toronto Defiant? 그거를 제가 조금 더 여쭤보고 싶어요. 방금 이제 좀 어떤 조합이 좀 잘 맞는 것 같다, 어떤 조합이 좀 잘 맞나, 좀 이런 생각을 염두를 해 두시면서 지금 이번 카운트다운 컵에 들어오신다고 방금 말씀을 하셨는데, 좀 어떤 조합이 지금 토론토에게 좀 잘 맞는 것 같나요?
아무래도 저희가 이제 솜브라를 잘하는 히두 선수가 있고 해가지고 솜브라와 그리고 라스트로 선수가 야타를 되게 잘 쏘거든요. 그래서 그 두 개로 쓸 수 있는 조합도 하면서 이제 자유자재로 바꿀 수 있는 홀솜트? 근데 기본적인 조합이긴 한데 저희한테 잘 맞는 것 같아요.
Okay. Alright. Of course, we have a very talented Sombra player, Hisu, and also Lastra on Zen. He's really good on the Zen as well. So I think we are going to be primarily focusing on Zen and Sombra, and of course we'll switch around, but which will probably be about the ball wrecking ball competition that we've seen. It's sort of general, but I think our main focus is the Sombra and the Zenyatta. All right, following that question, your match, of course you got the win today, but you have another match against the Washington Justice tomorrow. And of course, I think we all know that Washington is off to a bit of a rough start, but they do have a stacked roster. What does the Defiant have to do to get one step closer to the knockout rounds for the tournament? 두 번째 질문은 오늘 승리를 거두시고 이제 내일 또 경기가 있습니다. 내일 이제 경기가 워싱턴 저스티스와의 경기가 있으신데요. 지금 모두가 아시다시피 워싱턴이 조금 힘들어하는 모습을 좀 보여주고 있는 것 같아요. 지금 이번 토너먼트에서 어떻게 하면 디파이언트가 내일도 승리를 거둬서 2연승을 할 수 있을까요?
일단 지금 워싱턴 팀도 되게 힘들 텐데 이제 플레이오프를 이겨서 가야 되니까 준비를 열심히 할 거예요, 엄청. 그래도 저희는 오늘 있었던 실수랑 그런 거 보강 잘 해서 가면은 충분히 이길 수 있다 생각해요.
Okay. I think Washington Justice is also a team that's sort of having a rough time. Things aren't really going their way right now. But leading after the Countdown Cup, we're going into the playoffs. So we are preparing our team, Toronto Defiance. We're going to prepare a lot, and sort of after reviewing the match that we had today, we're going to see what improvements we have to make, what sort of adjustments we have to make from the mistakes that we made today. And I think we're going to go about in that sort of way. All right, thank you so much for your time, Michelle. That is it for the interview. And again, congratulations on the win. 미셸 선수, 이걸로 인터뷰를 마치겠습니다. 오늘 승리 너무 축하드리고 다음에 뵙도록 할게요.
네, 감사합니다.
감사합니다. All right, let's head back to the desk.
감사합니다.
Thanks a lot, Danny. And of course, Michelle, congrats to the Toronto Defiant. And super unrelated, but Danny, your hair is looking amazing today. I was just marveling.
Thank you.
Looking at you conducting the interview.
I
It's gorgeous. It always looks great, but today...
Thank you.
Yeah, no, very nice, very nice. Yeah, show some love on Twitter at It's Me...
Lemmy.
It's me, Lemmy. It's me, Lemmy. There we go.
Oh, yeah, nice.
Almost got it right.
It's me then.
Show a small plug here, why not? Anyway, let's talk about the teams. London and Toronto. Both teams came into today looking to start their Countdown Cup with a W. Now, it did look like London had a few opportunities there. I don't want to take away from that. However, Toronto turned it up in that second half. So, Costa, walk us through it. What went right? What went wrong? How do you feel?
Conflicted. Let's start with conflicted because the Toronto Defiant, I think they had control of this match pretty much the entirety of it. Obviously, it didn't go well on their attack on Rialto, but for the most part, they were very solid. I liked what we saw. They were willing to play the Pharah or the Sombra, or they were willing to play the Winston or the Wrecking Ball, and they're all good looks for them, and everyone looks comfortable. So I'm excited to see more from the Toronto Defiant as we go further in the Countdown Cup and how high they can go. But this is a hard one to get a real litmus test for the team because the London Spitfire are still unfortunately making mistakes. Johnny, I know you were high on them. I know you were high on that copium.
Hey, I was just saying this was a chance, okay?
Yeah.
I never said they're gonna be world beaters. I said it was a chance.
There was a chance, and unfortunately they couldn't deliver. London Spitfire, they leaned way too heavily, in my opinion, onto this Blase Sombra, and it didn't look that good. Blase was really struggling to get damage and value from his EMPs. Just wasn't charging it that fast. I'm surprised we didn't see other looks from him because Johnny even said in the pre-show, if we get Kellex on that Mercy, Blase on that Pharah, a hero that we know him for, I think they could look very comfortable in this meta, but they forced this Sombra Tracer Wrecking Ball so much that Toronto Defiant just countered them. They played Sato on that Winston, Lastro on that Ana, and they just kept nanoing the Winston in, and London didn't have a consistent answer to it. So, struggling woes continue for the London Spitfire, and it's getting harder for them to get that win. The bread ball at the end of the season might be the only hope for this London Spitfire team at this point.
I'm excited.
How did you feel about the substitutions being made?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good point, right? Because in the pre-show I thought about Sparker and how he was going to be very important. I think you can safely say that Blase didn't have a great performance here on the Sombra. If they think he's the best choice to play the Sombra for the Lone Spitfire, I mean, so be it. You know, they're the ones practicing. They know the internal stuff more than I do. But given that Blase underperformed a little bit on the Sombra, it would have been nice to see Sparker there. You know, some fresh young blood being able to come into this game and really set the pace. Something that Costas admitted that they were lacking. Toronto Defiant, they were in control most of the time. Still though, Lone Spitfire, they hung around because Shaq's Tracer was pretty solid at times. You know, he made some clutch pulse bombs there to make sure that they were in the fight, and then Hadi got nano boosted, got a couple of picks himself. So they were competitive, okay? So even though I was wrong, I mean, at the same point, everyone were so down on the London Spitfire. At least they showed that they could, you know, win Rialto. They were close to winning Temple of Anubis. There was some fight there. So, as Danny usually says about the LA Valiant, they're improving.
I don't know. You just threw
that in there.
I like you just dragging Danny in there with you. Love it, absolutely love it. Now we have another match to preview today. Vancouver Titans and Boston will face off against each other. That means once again there is an opportunity for breadsticks. Maybe the Titans fans are hungry for the first victory of the season. And of course also for those breadsticks. So of course we hope to get a graphic up to see where the bingo is at. I don't know, it changes every week, right? So we just don't know at this point. But the big, there it is. All right, what we got?
Double barrage. Okay. Do we want to go square by square?
Okay, doable.
Yeah, go
square by square, maybe?
What's the doable line?
I think
Where do you see
double
them?
pulse bomb, pile driver a limb. Hit that top left or bottom right diagonal. I think that looks pretty good.
No. You think double pulse bomb is like an easy feat? I mean, I don't even know if they get a regular pulse bomb in a match. You want two at the same time.
Danny just did a pre-show where Dalton hits a lot of pulse bombs. That was the thing we highlighted about Dalton, right? So maybe.
I think the way this happens.
That's true.
I think the way it happens is Diva eats ult, because, you know, you with one pulse bomb, whatever, and then 5 melee final blows. Yeah. I think that's attainable.
I feel like a 10 ult limbs and triple limb with ult, that's doable.
Baby Diva limbs with double barrage?
Because keep in mind that the square is going to be filled out, like, after they did one square during one map, like that stays filled out, right? So then they have another map to work on another square. So I think the play here is really just work yourself from square to square. Like, don't even care about the Boston Uprising. Right now, it's about breadsticks for me.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care if you get the victory. I just want to see some carbs. That's where my head is at. But the big question still, can they, or is it? Yeah, it's an upset. It's definitely considered an upset. But can